Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Join alongside Tim in Green Bay. We got Jacob in Wisconsin here to talk some Packers this evening. Full disclosure, it seems that StreamYard has fixed the issues. However, if I drop off the stream, I'll try to get back on, adjust some settings, and we'll kind of go with the flow. Tim, how you doing, big dog?
Doing good, man. Happy to be here. We got the beard in the house, too. What's up, Jacob?
We may have to edit that first few seconds there. I think Tim caught it too. But Jacob, how you doing, man? Is there any glitch and any delay? How you feel?
It's a little bit glitchy, but I think we can work through it, hopefully.
Yeah, seems better than it was the other night, so maybe it will maybe it'll settle in tonight as we go throughout the show. So if you're new here, welcome into PTA. Welcome into PTA. Appreciate you making us a part of your evening. Hit that like, hit that subscribe if you like daily Packers content. We got pretty much all the bases covered. We do film breakdown, pregame show, postgame show, covering PFF grade. We do it all here. So we try to go live every day, and we appreciate y'all joining us. Got a bunch of new viewers, bunch of new subs. Just want to say welcome to the family. We appreciate y'all joining us for this silly little party called PTA. What I thought we would do tonight, gang, and I see everybody in the chat. Thank y'all so much for hopping in here. And I know it's already absolutely lit up in there. We're going to cover we're going to keep it kind of simple tonight. We're just going to kind of look at the offensive side of the ball, right? And look at the PFF grades from last year and just kind of have a conversation about, hey, how do we feel going into training camp as we're closing in here and we're 8 days away from quarterbacks and rookies reporting. So, and the injured players, I believe it is reporting as well. So we'll just kind of take a look at everything. I thought this was really cool. Christian Watson's dad put this up on X earlier today. Hopefully there ain't no language in there. I didn't even read the actual tweet. I just seen the video he posted, but he gets a little colorful from time to time. I like to see him, though. Says, this is some great work, Jaden Reed. Folks, the most impressive thing about this video is that this young man understands that he needs these reps with his helmet. I've never understood football players practicing catching 100s of balls without a helmet. It's conditioning themselves only partially for the task at hand, as there's then an additional adjustment that has to be made when you add the obstructed sight lines through the face mask once the helmet is worn. This is a former NFL player talking about this here. I thought it was a great point because, boys, listen, it's easy to go out there and play backyard football, right? But when you go out there with a helmet on and that thing's jarring around and you got all the extra weight of the pads, it's a whole different ballgame. But you see Jaden, looks like he's down in Florida, just in Miami, Florida, getting those extra reps in. I thought this was awesome, man.
Down in Miami with the winter warning helmet on, getting his workout in. You got to love it.
Exactly. Jacob, this is what you want to see, right, man? I think Jaden Reed I'm telling you, man, I think he's going to absolutely blow up this year. And he's led the team in receiving the last 2 years,
Yeah, definitely. Like Coach Lynn's saying here, it's nice to see these guys are actually working. They're not just out, on the beach or in the club or doing anything stupid like that. They are absolutely taking this serious. And I think that, Goody lit a fire under a lot of these guys' butts. Last year we went in with what we thought was a very well-rounded, very talented wide receiver room. And I don't think that the guys took that for granted at all, but we definitely didn't get some performances that we expected. We had too many drops, too many missed opportunities, too many injuries. So what better way to make your guys definitely go sweat in the Miami Heat than drafting 2 wide receivers in the first 3 rounds?
Yeah, definitely. Judy says, what I love about this is that it's out of his house. How cool is this, Tim? Just catching some balls off the jugs machine right out of the garage, man.
I love it. And I love what Papa Scoot said, too. Do it with your helmet on, right? We see a lot of guys. It's one thing to run routes. You go out and run routes during the offseason, stay loose, that kind of thing. But if you're working on your hands and, looking the ball in and catching, getting the head around, your instincts, reflexes, might as well have a helmet on, right? I like when the guys forget the gloves, put the helmet on, leave the gloves at home, catch them barehanded. That way, when you put those nice Under Armour or Nike gloves on, you get even better grips. So I think it's cool to, you got to practice like you play, right? And play like you practice. So it makes perfect sense for him to get that extra work in and throw the helmet on, man. Might as well. It's almost go time, right?
Yeah. H.E. Soder says, dude in the garage knows that you need to be in the shade during the Florida summer. Amen to that, man. Those Florida summers are different, boys.
He had a daddy soda underneath the jugs machine too. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did notice that. Gotta have it. And here's the thing, man. Like, I don't know about you guys. I love this time of year. Like, you're in the hottest part of the summer, but starting next month that you're going to start to bend into the fall just a little bit. You're about to creep into football weather. You've got college football cranking up at the end of August. You got training camp going full blown here in just a couple of weeks. To me, that's just as much football season as it is in December, you know? And, I got a landscaping business. I was out there and there's certain types of trees that the leaves have already shed a little bit. They do kind of that midsummer shedding. Seeing the leaves on that fresh cut grass, it's like, boy, fall's right around. Jacob will have his pumpkin spice latte, the whole. Do you like the pumpkin spice, Jacob, or not?
I'll be honest, I've never had any pumpkin spice anything. I like pumpkin pie.
There you go. Same thing, right? Same thing.
Sure.
So, all right, let's continue here on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, Jaden Reed putting in that work. You love to see it. Just looking at the PFF scores from last year, guys. We talked about the top 5, who I thought, and we got the guys' opinion as well, who the top 5 best players on the Packers roster is, both on offense and defense, just kind of collectively, right? And we won't go back over that list, but just looking at the offensive side of the ball here, Tim, I think this is really, really cool, man. Josh Jacobs, 92.3. He was the 3rd highest graded running back according to PFF last year. Zach Tom, 85.8. He was the 6th highest graded tackle according to PFF. Number 3 on the list, but number 82.9 in terms of the PFF grade. 12th best running back in the league, Emmanuel Wilson. Then you got Jordan Love with a 75.8. That is 20th of 42. You guys know you got to take that with a grain of salt with the injuries. But McCole Hardman, 72.8, minimal snaps, but it's worth mentioning he falls into the top 5 of offensive players. You go on down the line, Jaden Reed, 71, Malik Willis, 70, Christian Watson, 70, Romeo Dobbs, 69. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 receivers grading out right there at 70. And people think this receiving core is bad. It just, I don't know, it's mind-boggling to me. Moving along there, Rasheed Walker, 68, Tucker Kraft, 67, Elton Jenkins, 65. Chris Brooks, probably even going to make the dang roster, man. 65 PFF grade, right? Solid grade there. Aaron Banks, 65. That's an upgrade over Josh Myers, obviously. Dontavion Wicks, even with the drops, is 65. Just want to get your all's take on it. We'll go around the horn. I don't care who goes first, Tim, Jacob, whoever. What sticks out to you here? And we can also narrow it down to position groups if you want to go that route. I just got to click that tab at the top.
Go ahead, Beard.
To me, it would have to be how underrated our running back room is from top 1, 2, 3, and we still have an unknown in Marshawn Lloyd. And for all these guys to produce the way they did before we did this sort of kind of revamping of the offensive line, where we kind of definitely want to be a little more, larger in the trenches. We want to be able to be some man movers in there. I think that we're going to see an even better lineup. And I think me and Tim have went back and forth, and we've had the conversation of Emmanuel Wilson, in my eyes, is the number 2. Marshawn Lloyd doesn't get anything just given to him. And I know he knows that, but Emmanuel Wilson has went through the ringer to get to where he's at, and people still barely don't even know his name. You know what I mean? So at this point, I think it's very encouraging for that running back room, not to mention obviously the wide receivers that are up there. But to me, the running back room just kind of sticks out.
I would agree with that. Just going back off of our list the other day, I had 3 out of my 5 were offensive players, believe it or not, me being Mr. Defense. I only had 2 defenders on my top 5 list. But of those 3, it was Jay Money, Josh Jacobs, and Zach Tom. So I look at this list, if I'm not counting those names, who's the first names that comes to mind? It's, like Jacob was talking about a few nights ago, it's Tuck Norris, man. It's our tight end, 85, baby, Tuck Norris. And right after him would probably be, honestly, Big E, making that move over to center. Hopefully we sort out this contract. We should be hearing about that any minute now. Any day now, guys. Let us know what's going on with Elton Jenkins. those would be the two that come to mind outside of the three that I already had on the offensive side of the ball. But to Jacob's point, I think he's right. When you look at this offense, I think our running back room is severely underrated, and I do think it's Emmanuel Wilson's spot to lose. Marshawn Lloyd is going to be a freak in this league. We've thought it since we drafted him, but we haven't seen it yet. He's got to show it. Nothing's going to be handed to him, like Jacob said. So I agree with that.
Yeah. As Deadfish says here, thanks for marking that there, Jacob. Jordan Morgan almost had a 60 score as a rookie, but he did not play much. Yeah, obviously he dealt with the injury coming out of camp and then re-aggravated it later in the year, and that's one of the reasons why he didn't fully take that job away from Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan grading out a 61.3, Jordan Morgan right there on his heels at a 59.2. And Jordan Morgan put some good tape out there, in my opinion, when he was on the field. Now, look, you got to be healthy. You got to make sure you're on the field for sure, but I know you marked that one, Jacob. What do you think about the offensive line, man? Here we go. Zach Tom, 85. Rasheed Walker, 68. Elton Jenkins, 65. Aaron Banks, 65. Sean Ryan, 61. Jordan Morgan, 59. Kadeem Telford, 48. And then, of course, Travis Glover, Emilio's guy. Which, shout out to Emilio. Got hitched. Married man now. Congratulations on that, sir. So, Travis Glover, 35. He probably not something you want to hear.
Travis Glover didn't give Emilio and Jordan any wedding gifts, right?
No. I mean,
but Emilio still loves them, right?
Yeah. I just want to point out the 12.6 pass blocking grade there, Jake. What do you think?
That is unbelievable. First of all, absolutely congrats to Mr. Emilio and to his lovely now wife. And I'm just glad that the guy could finally become a citizen. But now going on to the offensive line, one thing that I listened to, when you actually look at the overall, the starting five, it actually is a little, people see the 60s and they don't think it's that great, but 60s, it's not like your typical schoolyard scoring, right? It's not like a D grade. Your 60 is pretty much like your kind of average. And you see obviously Tom up there. I think Rasheed Walker is pretty exceeding that 68.7. I think normally Elton Jenkins would exceed the 65.7 grade, but you look over at the pass blocking grades, and that's where you really see how good this offensive line is. I think Ryan touched on it earlier in one of his podcasts this week about how obviously you guys know Ryan loves PFF. I think he uses that metric more than probably any other in the course of his podcast, but he blatantly said, I don't understand how they calculate offensive line scores because it doesn't make any sense for a lot of these things. The way they average it out, the way that they put little emphasis on pass blocking, when in a lot of people's eyes that seems to be the most important part of the game. It depends on the offensive scheme, obviously, and all that kind of stuff. But I am very hopeful that even if Tom can take a step in any direction forward, I mean, that's just going to be an absolute elite player. Rasheed Walker, you guys know how I feel about him. If he comes out, it's a contract year in theory for him, even if it's not with us. So he wants to show the world that, hey, I'm worth getting paid here. Elton Jenkins has a chip on his shoulder, and Aaron Banks has something to prove as well. That leaves one more guy that needs to pop out of that mix here. Could it be Glover? I don't think so, but it could be Jordan Morgan, Donovan Jennings. I'm even looking at some dark horses like Belton, Monk, Banks, somebody that comes in there and just steals away. I think that's going to be one of the, if not the most interesting camp battles to see what is going to be this top five.
Yeah. And let's go to the chat here. Ed Madden said, congratulations, Emilio. Travis Glover was the best man? ? Exactly. 2-0 for this says, does Emilio get to keep the race car bed? He's going to need
in the garage.
That.
Yeah, in the garage. Yeah, for sure. He keeps his tools in the trunk.
Respect. Orange just said Travis Glover popped out of the wedding cake, Tim. Unbelievable. What do you think about this offensive line, Tim? I'm with Jacob, man. You look at it and you go, nothing really pops to you other than Zach Tom. But, man, those are steady grades across the mark. Josh Myers, I think he graded out in the 50s last year, I believe. So you upgraded there. We just got to get Elton into camp. And listen, I think it was a good sign that he showed up and did the hold in during minicamp. Been real easy to go, I'm staying away, I'm playing hardball. I hope they do give him a little more guaranteed, kind of sweeten the pot, because if they go that route, they can actually lower the cap number a little bit too, right? So give him a little bit of security, and then you can still move on next year if you need to, but he's getting a little more guaranteed money now. Now, with that being said, he may be wanting a 3-year extension, Tim. That's where I kind of buck a little bit. Like, I don't know about that, depending on what the money is. But what do you think of the O-line here, man?
And we don't know, right? Like when you talk about Jenkins, we don't know what's going through his head and what these negotiations are. We don't know what his representation is pushing for. I would think that that's the formula, though, right? Give him a little bit of guaranteed money, We're asking him to make a move here late in his career, move him into the center position and be the the general of this O-line with Jordan Love. So I don't think it's unreasonable to guarantee him some more money. But yeah, if he's looking for, a contract that's going to keep him here, beyond 33, 34 years old, it might get a little tricky. But I have full faith and confidence in both Elton Jenkins and his attitude and his approach, and also the front office at 1265, that they're going to make this right and we're going to figure something out. That being said, that's my starting center. I would like to see, in an ideal situation, maybe Jordan Morgan does win that left tackle position, and we don't have to wonder about Rasheed Walker. But I'm okay with Sheed being our left tackle. I'm good with Aaron Banks at left guard, Big E at center, and it's going to be either Jordan Morgan or Sean Ryan at right guard. I'm convinced of it. And then obviously Zach Tom, the stud, is your right tackle. Any day on that too. Waiting for them to back up a boatload of cash to Zach Tom's house. Get that.
Can I pose a weird question, or I guess a scenario?
Yeah, man.
We all have just kind of assumed that Elton Jenkins is a plug and play center. We've heard it for a long time. Between him and Tom, what was the old quote that they're like a Pro Bowl tackle? Yep. Yeah. All pro guard and like Hall of Fame center type thing.
It was actually that comment was not said about Elton. It was only said about Zach Tom. They said Zach Tom is a Pro Bowl caliber tackle. He's an all-pro guard and a Hall of Fame center, is the way they viewed him.
Yeah, but I feel like they've talked in similar air that Elton is a plug and play at any position along the line. Mm-hmm. And I just the only times that we saw it was at the end of the year, and I didn't see a great performance. Now, obviously, if you get pulled out of playing a position that you've been playing the whole season, and you don't have any camaraderie with the guys that are next to you, I understand why that may look a certain type of way. Oh, and it's against one of the best defenses that's come around lately in the modern history of football. But do you guys have any reserves or hesitation thinking that could be our biggest glaring, what's the word? Weakness on the offensive line again would be the center position, even if he slides in there. Do you have any reservations? Do you have that being a possibility?
I think it's a realistic concern, definitely. But to your point about Elton Jenkins, I think, at least in my eyes, he was always a guy that could play anywhere on the interior. So both guard spots for sure, and then center. I do think, that being said, the contingency plan could be, if the wheels fall off with Elton at center for some reason, like to play devil's advocate here, then you move Zach Tom to center and you stick it. Jordan Morgan at right tackle if you have to, or you juggle on that side and put your best five on the field, like you always say, Jacob. But I have faith. I believe Elton can play center. I really do. I don't think he's been able to do it consistently enough at the NFL level for us to really get a glimpse of what he can do. But I think, going into a season from camp all the way through, preparing to be that guy and being the center, I think he can handle it. I don't have any doubt.
So you'd be cool. You'd rather pull Tom away and not give maybe somebody like Monk or Ryan a chance because Clayton, you correct me if I'm wrong.
At center, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm just wondering, do you want to jeopardize taking Zach Tom away from that tackle position where we know he's a stud and risk shaking up the rest of the offensive line? Or do you want to try to say, if Elton, let's say, God forbid, it's an injury or something like that, would you rather try a Jacob Monk or a Sean Ryan, just so you know you have that staple at tackle? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, here's my thing. There's two positions that touch the ball every single play, center and quarterback, right? I would much rather have my best player playing center, handling the ball every time, rather than have that in the hands of a Jacob Monk or someone like that. Listen, Jacob Monk could go on to be a great center, but the way you kind of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Jacob. You wasn't saying Elton's a bad center. I know that. But the hesitation in your voice about, do we know Elton's a good center? That's how I feel about Jacob Monk, Sean Ryan, everybody else who plays center other than Zach Tom, right? So for me, it would be Elton. I feel great about Elton playing at center. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the tape of him in college. Now, when he got asked to play center against Detroit, Tim was there. It was a damn monsoon, and he didn't prep to be center all week long. He gets plugged right into that, and now all of a sudden you're trying to help the guy plugging in at left guard handle their guy. And what it really comes down to is the reason centers get paid less than guards is because they don't have to handle the 3 tag, right? They're typically in a double team situation. It's very, very rare, unless you're in your base 12 or 21 and you're going up against a 34 jam. It's very rare that a center is one-on-one blocking. So the blocking aspect, Elton's got it licked. The reps with Jordan of him playing center, whether it's in the shotgun or under center, and snapping the football, that's where you need some reps for them to get acclimated with each other. And here's the other thing. When we talk about Josh Myers and we turn on the tape, how many times, what was the thing that we noticed the most about Josh Myers all year long? He could get to the second level, but when he got there, damn, he couldn't get a hand on anybody.
Blocking ghosts. Yeah.
Watch Elton get out to the second level when they pull a guard. So that part of your game is going to be improved. And that, my friends, is the backbone of duo, which is what we run with Josh Jacobs now, which is double-double vertical power. So I have no worries at all with Elton playing center, none. I do have worries that if Elton goes down and we decide to go the Sean Ryan route or the Jacob Monk route, not knowing what's happening there. But here's the cool thing. With Elton missing time during camp, hell, look who's getting the reps. It's Jacob Monk. So that can only help him, for sure. Deadfish says Jenkins has a better score at pass block and run block, but Walker has a better overall score. What's going on here? That's exactly what Jacob was talking about with Ryan and PFF, right? So, and listen, I'm sure they got their whole system. My biggest problem with PFF is they don't say, here's what we graded this play. It's just, here are the grades. And that kind of bothers me a little bit. It makes me a little more hesitant to just go, hey, this is gospel. And that's why I prefer NFL Pro over obviously PFF.
I want to say, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I think that even stuff like penalties, do they factor that into the PFF grade? So I'm wondering if maybe
oh yeah, definitely.
So I'm wondering if that could be the difference there, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. So, but I understand the confusion and the trying to figure out how the heck they handle this stuff, man. It's really strange how they go about it. Chase Green in the chat earlier said Chris Brooks can block very well in those double sidecar sets, man. And not just you didn't specify pass blocking. I immediately thought pass pro, right? Which is what Ed Madden just said. Brooks is probably our best at pass pro. But the previous comment talking about double sidecar, we seen Chris Brooks as the lead blocker, on some of those pony package runs. That was a lot of fun. So when you look at the running back room, Josh Jacobs, 92, Emmanuel Wilson, 82, Chris Brooks, 65, and then Marshawn Lloyd, 53. I think you either carry 4 or you try to stash Chris Brooks on the practice squad. Now, an injury could occur. I hope that doesn't happen in camp, but they're not going to – I mean, there's no way. If all 4 of these guys are healthy, there's no way they're letting Marshawn Lloyd try to go to the practice squad. That's just not going to happen. So we may be carrying 4. Boys, what do y'all think about the running back room, what Ed Madden and the guys said in the chat about Chris Brooks? That's going to be a hard one to let go, Jacob, if you decide to move on from Chris Brooks.
Yeah, it's just that type of year, though, where it's like, where do you make the cut? I mean, we've got all of our guys that we love on the offensive line. I've got at least 3 tight ends that I want to see make this team, if not 4. I've got at least 3, if not 4 wide receivers, or I'm sorry, running backs that I want to make this team. And then the wide receiver room is longer than the freaking line at never mind. The club, let's just say the Oval Office when I'm on stage. Let's say that. And then
just don't ask for your money back once you get in there.
All sales are final. I just think that it's a big deal because there's also, we talk about how many guys on the defensive side of the ball we're trying to sneak on. So at this point, does Chris Brooks, can we slide him by making it through to the practice squad again, or does he have too much notoriety and too much tape on film that somebody could snag him up? I don't know. If I had my druthers and I could say, yeah, I would love to keep all of them. I really would. I just, for whatever reason, I think that Chris Brooks is the odd man out, even though I don't think that's fair. But that's
in
life.
A perfect world, he's your practice squad guy, right? And you run with Jacobs, Wilson, and Lloyd, and you let Wilson and Lloyd fight it out for that number 2 spot. I would agree, because I'd like to keep those 4. We haven't really seen much of Jalen White or Amar Johnson to really even talk, but I would agree. And it's tough, Jacob, like you said, look at the receiver room and you look at some of the guys that we have that are capable of playing in the backfield. We were talking about Savion Williams. We talked about Jaden Reed. So it does. You got a deep running back room, but you've also got a receiving core that are capable of lining up back there as well. So it makes it really tough to cut down for sure.
Yeah. And I like what Coach Lynn says here. Unless Johnson from South, I'm trying to think of who it is. Is it South Dakota State he played for? SCUSD. I'm not sure what that stands for there. Is a stud, but he's talking about obviously Amar Johnson. Amar Johnson, where did he play? Let me see it real quick. Yeah, South Dakota State Jackrabbits. So the same school that Tucker went to, right? So that's one that could, listen, we didn't know who the hell Emmanuel Wilson was when they signed him, Tim, Yep. So this is how you find these guys, right? Now, I'm not saying that Amar Johnson is going to replace Emmanuel Wilson. Don't get me wrong, but you can't be too worried about losing someone like Chris Brooks. I mean, that's the reason you brung Amar Johnson and Jalen White in. And I will say this, that it is worth noting that we broke camp last year with the initial 53. Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Emmanuel Wilson, and we put A.J. Dillon on the injured reserve, and we released Ellis Merriweather and Nate McCrary. So both of those guys obviously are not on the roster now. So I'm not going to say it's highly unlikely we carry 4, but last year we did break camp with 3. I personally think if you break camp with 3, it's definitely going to be Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, Marshawn Lloyd, and like you said, Tim, try to get Chris Brooks on the practice squad.
Hopefully.
So,
for sure.
Yeah. And Amar Johnson too. That's the thing too. If Chris Brooks and Amar Johnson on the practice squad sounds pretty dang good to me. If you can make that happen,
and to Jacob's point, you never know. Brooks could be one of those guys that gets snatched up, because there is tape out there. We've seen enough that he could be intriguing to another team as a prospect. So he might not be safe there.
What's even crazier too is Daryl. How's your wives doing, Daryl? He brings up a good point. He says Ellis Merriweather did what he could in the backfield before signing with the CFL team. I thought Ellis Merriweather looked great in preseason. There was times where I was like, man, he might make this team,
Right.
I said the same thing. Shows what the hell we know, right?
I said the same thing about Christian Welch. This guy's Ray Lewis. But now he's back on the team again. Unbelievable. Now, yeah, it's going to be.
Oh, wait, too old for this. Easy solution. Cut Alex Hale, designate Whelan as the international player, and boom, you keep Brooks.
I get too old for this.
Can't say that's not intriguing, but how dare you insult my upstart young blood kicker waiting in the wings for Brandon McManus to retire in a couple of years and take over the reins. But hey, I've heard of crazier game plans than this. What do you think?
I'll tell you, no comment, man. That's I love the way too old for this is mind fires, though. No doubt about it, man. All right, so there's just a quick glimpse at running back. We started off talking about Jaden Reed. Let's take a look at the receiver room real quick. All right, we got Mecole Hardman, 72.8, Jaden Reed, 71.7, Christian Watson, 70, Romeo Dobbs, 69, Dontavion Wicks, 65, Bo Melton, 63, Malik Heath, 62. Now, if you go to EPA and some of the advanced metrics and get away from PFF, you'll find that Malik Heath was one of our better receivers with the limited opportunities he was given, right? Dontavion Wicks, way down the list. Jaden Reed, passer rating when targeted, was the best amongst all receivers in the National Football League last year, which is still wild to think about. Christian Watson led the league in yards per reception at 21.4, I believe it was, while Jordan Love obviously led the league with 24 completions of 20-plus air yards, or more. So the big thing that sticks out, though, is Mecole Hardman, man. I think Mecole Hardman's going to make this roster if he stays healthy. I think they like his speed. I think they like his veteran leadership. He's got a ring or two, Super Bowl ring, so he brings that aspect to the team as well. Last year we broke camp with 6. If you had to pick them right now, well, what 6 are we going with here, guys? I know this. If it comes down to Malik Heath and Bo Melton, as much as I love Bo, I'm probably keeping Malik Heath, although you got to run it through the filter of, can you get Malik Heath on the practice squad? What do you guys think about the receiver room?
I'm with you there on if it's down to Bo and Malik, I'm going to go with Malik Heath, man. And that's no disrespect to Bo Melton. We love Bo Melton, but Malik's a dog, man. He's one of those guys that might not get a lot of snaps, but every snap that he gets, he's going to maximize, and he's going to make a play. He's going to show up on that game tape. He doesn't take plays off. But if I had to pick 6, I think you're right, man. Rome, Tay Wicks, Jaden Reed, Mecole Hardman, Savion, Matt Golden, Scoot coming off of the IR. That's my 6.
How about you, Jacob?
Yeah, it's tough. I agree with Tim. I gotta take Malik over Bo. I do also think that Nicole is somehow going to find a way on this team. I just think that he has shown too much. He's been too much of a veteran presence. So I'd probably mimic that. Yeah, I think it'd be Dontavian, Dobbs, Reed, Hardman, Heath, and then obviously when Scoot comes back, we figure that out. But it's I mean, look at, and obviously the talent down there, I'm in Goldman, Savion, but it's like there's so many guys there where it's like dealer's choice, man. And I know, like we talk about a lot, I don't want it to happen. I'm not saying it should happen, but it's almost guaranteed that there are going to be some injuries. So it's nice to know that there is an absolute rotation. Like this team, I don't think you'll find another team in the NFL right now that has a deeper and more talented wide receiver group. It's just crazy.
You're right. Even if you go to the bottom tier guys, right? Guys that may not make this team. Julian Hicks is a guy that had a good camp last year for us.
Cornelius Johnson is
another up and coming big body, like, receiver. So there's depth across the board. So you don't want to say, hey, you can't go wrong, just pick your 6, but you do feel good knowing that injuries happen to every team, every year, every season. It happens. It's bound to happen at some point. Hopefully it's a minor thing and not something like, Christian Watson's dealing with now, missing extended period of time. And you have the depth where, next man up. We always talk about it, the old cliche. Somebody goes down, next man up, fill that role, maximize your reps, and go make an impact. And I think you're right, Jacob. I think we have a receiver room right now, at the 90-man point on the roster. We've got depth there. So whoever ends up on the 53 and whoever ends up on the practice squad, I think we're good going forward.
Now, if we look at production with the receiving core from last year, just catching the ball in general, both running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. Let's try to key in on wide receivers, but it's hard to ignore Tucker Kraft. First of all, leading the way in yardage, 857 receiving yards, Jaden Reed. Second on the team was Tucker Kraft at 707. Third was Christian Watson with 620. And you see that yards per reception at 21.4 right there. Just unbelievable. Romeo Dobbs, 601. Dontavian Wicks, 415. Josh Jacobs, 342 out of the backfield. Malik Heath, 97. Bo Melton, 91. Now, when you go to the touchdown column here, Tucker Kraft led the way with 7, Jaden Reed 6, Dontavian Wicks with 5, Romeo Dobbs 4, Christian Watson only 2, Malik Heath 2. Look at Malik Heath, man. He ran 62 routes and caught a couple tutters. Pretty wild to think about. We go to yards per reception. This is where you see Christian Watson shine at 21.4. Jaden Reed out of the slot, 15.6. Tucker Kraft, 14.1. Romeo Dobbs, 13.1. Bo Melton, 11. Tay Wicks, 10. Ben Sims, 10. Only 46 routes. Only targeted 5 times. Caught 4 balls. And now, I don't know, just averaged 10.5 yards a catch. Pretty cool, right? Then, of course, you got Malik Heath at 9. Josh Jacobs at 9. The fact that Josh Jacobs averaged 9 yards a catch is wild to think about.
Can we circle that one tutter there too? We got him his first career receiving tutter. Shout out to Josh Jacobs. Hopefully he gets at least one more this year. We'll see.
Yeah. And then with Jacob, when you go to catch percentage, this was the big thing, right? People were worried about the drops and all, right? If you just focus on wide receivers, okay? Well, first of all, Ben Sims, shout out to Ben. Well, Josh Jacobs, 83.7% catch percentage out of the backfield. Just sure-handed as they come, right? Ben Sims, 80%. Emmanuel Wilson improved his catching ability in the passing game at 78.6. Malik Heath, 76.9. Malik Heath led all of our receivers at 76.9% catch rate, right, or catch percentage. Jaden Reed at 73.3. So of our starting wide receivers, you would go on Twitter and people say, Jaden Reed just catch the ball. He got a drop issue. He led our starting receivers, right, in catch percentage at 73.3. I just want to point that out. And look at Musgrave too, man. 70% catch rate right there, right behind Tucker Kraft at 71.4. What do y'all think about that? Am I off base there? Because there's people ready to run Jaden Reed out of town because he has a drop issue. Of course, we broke down the last 5 games of the year, and there was only one that could have been counted as a drop, and he was full extension trying to catch football because the ball was off the mark. But
I got a hot take for you.
Let's hear it.
Jaden Reed's going to be your leading receiver in 2025 for the Green Bay Packers. Book it.
Hey, that ain't hot to me at all, man. I can see him, if he stays healthy, Tim, And with the emergence of Savion Williams, Savion Williams taking more end arounds and stuff and taking that off Jaden Reed's plate, keeping him healthy, I would not be surprised if Jaden Reed cracks a grand this year. I would.
You got Matthew Golden stretching the field, running 9 routes all day, torching the secondary. Yeah, Bird's going to get his, man. Definitely.
No doubt.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I agree. I just can't. As we went through all those percentages and those metrics, again, I hate to be the same guy, but the guy that flashed to me was Tucker Kraft. The fact that he had almost 800 yards receiving, that he almost did he lead us in touchdowns, I believe? Yeah, he did. And the fact that, again, if you look at even the wide receivers, he was the third average catch, I believe, at 14 some odd yards, which that's pretty impressive for a tight end. And I really do think that he has not cracked his potential. So if I had to pick between, I think Reed will have more yards. I do think that's fair, but there's just so much more to spread around. I wouldn't be surprised if Reed ended up with like just over $1,000, and if Tucker still somehow was like in that 800-900 yard area, but maybe somehow cracked like 10 touchdowns, because I just feel like that they understand what type of weapon he is. But again, dealer's choice, man. Who are you going to cover? Imagine this is 11 personnel, 12 personnel, whatever you want to say, 21 personnel. You got to put a hat on a hat for certain guys that are just going to absolutely light you up. And then again, if I said earlier that I'd love to have 4 tight ends. John Fitzpatrick, look at that. 7 games played, not a ton, right? There's not a lot. He's got not that many targets and all that, but 100% is 100%. Marshawn Lloyd, 100% is 100%. Chris Brooks up there again. So you understand why these guys kind of pop off the page and become homers for us and hometown heroes, because they just, when we asked them to do a certain thing or a certain scheme in certain games, they performed. We didn't, ask them to do it, and we haven't seen it over the course of the whole season. So obviously that's why you have to take these metrics with a grain of salt, with a lot of them that have low snaps, low play time, low games. But I mean, man, dude, we've talked about how when we lost in that Philly game, once our few starters went down, we just had no backups. We had no rotation. We had no bench, man. And all I'm seeing right now is that we are stacking up that floor. We already kind of know, I think, that what a lot of these guys' ceiling is, but now we've got a lot of new guys that show that we can push that ceiling even farther. I think the most underrated thing about this offseason, about building off of last season, is that our floor, it's rising, baby. It's a rising.
Yeah. This receiving, it's tough.
It is, Brett. When you look at some of the advanced metrics here, catch rate over expected. Ben Sims, minimal snaps, obviously, 46 routes, but 15.8% led the way. John Fitzpatrick, 9.7. Of course, throw that out. This is what I was talking about. Malik Heath, of all the receivers, Malik Heath led in catch rate over expected at 9.7%. Luke Musgrave, 7.2%. And then you get down to our first starting receiver, if you will, Christian Watson, plus 5.2%. Boy, that whole crowd of the fan base that was saying Christian Watson couldn't catch a football, they're awful quiet now. We just got to get him healthy for sure. Romeo Dobbs, 2.9%. Jaden Reed, plus 1.2%. Tucker Kraft comes in at a negative 2.1%. But again, man, what sticks out there is your best 2 receivers in terms of catch rate over expected. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, no surprise there, but Jaden Reed right on Romeo's heels in terms of catch rate over expected. In terms of receiving EPA, Jaden Reed leading the way at 37.7. Tucker Kraft, there he is again, Jacob, 32.6. Romeo Dobbs, 24.9. Christian Watson, 16. And then once again, Malik Heath, you find him above players like Bo Melton, Dontavion Wicks. This is the metric I was talking about. Dontavion Wicks, catch rate over expected, minus 12.4%. And here's what's crazy is minus 12.4%. That is absolutely horrible catch rate over expected. But PFF has him graded a 65. Why? Because they're probably grading his route running ability in as well, right? If he fixes the drops this year, which weren't an issue his rookie year, to the best of my memory, I think you're going to have Dontavion Wicks stepping right back in on pace. He hit the sophomore slump. I'm hoping he just hits it in stride here this year, picks right up where he left off his rookie year. So, any other metric you guys want to see there? I'm looking at the average separation here, and when you remove the running backs, which they're going to have the most separation, look at Tucker Kraft, 4.4%. Jaden Reed, 4.4 yards of separation on average. Jaden Reed, 4. Musgrave 3.2, Ben Sims 3.1, and then Dontavion Wicks at 3. So you see he created more separation than people like Malik Heath, Romeo Dobbs, and Christian Watson. You're seeing that route running ability kind of show in the average yards of separation, but still Jaden Reed better than Dontavion Wicks at creating separation. Braden in the chat says Tucker Kraft just becoming a dad is going to motivate him to a new level this year. His Instagram story was legendary. Dude was born for Green Bay. I could not agree more. Did you guys see that? Him holding the newborn baby?
Shout out to Rob Westerman for reposting that on X. I saw that earlier today. What a cute pic. He had the baby in the helmet. Good luck. Congratulations to Tuck Norris, man. That's awesome.
Definitely. Anything else you guys want to hit here on the receiver room? Anything at all before we move it along?
Good? No, just shout out to Cheesehead Murph. Every time he's in the chat, we're blessed. What up, Cheesehead Murph?
Murph? That is my guy. I like what Greg Rice says. Murph with 2 F's, though. That's what I'm talking about. Yep. All right. That's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for hour 2, where we're going to talk defense and just give a little training camp preview there. We appreciate y'all.
For those of you listening on the pod,
welcome into hour 2. Let's talk defense, gents. Let's jump over to that side of the ball to take me a minute to set it up. Let's get your all's opening statements when you're thinking about the defensive side of the ball for the Packers. I don't care who goes first. What's the first player that comes to mind for you? Tim, you go first. I see you over chomping at the bit. What's the first player that comes to mind for you when you think of the Green Bay Packers defense, Tim?
Edrin Cooper. Let's go. Frosty, baby. Year 2, sophomore slump my ass. He's going to be an all-pro this year, boys. Let's go.
Well, that's true, but also you left out Cinco, which I don't know why Frosty gets all the attention. Nobody talks about Cinco, but whatever, man. If I had to guess right now, you know what's really cool? I see Tim Davis in the chat saying Baron Sorrell. I don't know if you guys have been catching up. The Packers learned once again to take a little bit of a step with their social media team. So what they're doing is they're releasing just like 1 or 2 or 3 minute clips every day in the offseason, and they're breaking up those kind of monotonous like interviews. There was a couple one like, do you believe in aliens? Like there was one like, what's your biggest fear? I think the one they released today was, if you could eat a dinner with 3 people, who would you eat with? And everybody kind of had unique stuff. Right. Everybody, some people said Elon Musk, a bunch of actors, musicians, singers, football players. They went to Baron Sorrell, and the kid, like as humble as can be, he's like, man, I haven't seen my mom and my dad and my brother for a while. I'd like to eat dinner with them and have a family dinner. And I swear, like, it almost choked me up, dude. I was like, God, this kid is so good. Like, I'm almost waiting to see, like, what are you lying about? Like, where's the cracks? Like, what kind of guy are you really? Because you're putting on this facade. I don't think it's a facade. I think that everybody that's ever played with the kid, I mean, you talk about his teammates. They asked him almost the same question. Like, if you had to go to the big leagues or if you had to go to the NFL, who would you rather be and take with you? And almost every single one of them, if I'm not mistaken, in that interview process said Baron Sorrell. Therefore, he is now a Packer.
Love it, dude. Love it. Yeah, I mean, listen, Baron Sorrell is one of those players that we love the backstory. We love the player as a person. I just hope he goes out there and balls out on the field, because if so, man, he's going to fit right in to a leadership role 2-3 years down the road. And that stuff's huge for culture. So top defensive players here, according to PFF, we'll just go down the line. Edrin Cooper, 85. Xavier McKinney, 84. Zane Anderson, 80. Somebody we've stopped talking about a little bit, man. That makes me feel so good knowing that Zane took a step forward under Jeff Hafley as opposed to, the prior coaching staff, and him being able to kind of raise his game up that, hey, if we need him to step in a pinch on defense at the safety position. I feel even at the slot, I would trust him in the slot if we're playing just a simple zone defense and not asking him to play mod or anything like that. I would trust him to play just simple spot drop. Rashawn Gary, 73. Katano Ladapo, another safety, 72. Evan Williams, 72. Ola Home Depot, love it. Brenton Cox Jr., Jacob, you ever heard of him? 67. Devontae Wyatt, 66. Carrington Valentine, 65. Keyshawn Nixon, 64. Aaron Mosby, 62. Omar Brown, 62. Carl Brooks, 61. Nate Hobbs, 61. Tyron Hopper, 60. Kenny Clark, 60. Quay Walker, 57. So on and so forth. Shout out to Clint, the armchair quarterback. Thank you so much, Clint. He just gifted 10 Packer Fan Total Access memberships to 10 people that are watching right now. It randomly picks them, and all 10 of you will be entered into our next giveaway, which will probably be next weekend. We're going to be giving away a Josh Jacobs jersey card. Got a jersey patch in it. Really, really cool piece of memorabilia there. So all you got to do is hit that join tab, be a member here on YouTube, or join our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Thank you so much, Clint. You are the man. Anything else you guys want to hit on the defensive side here before we dive into position groups? And if you guys got a certain position group you want to hit first, let me know. Let's do it.
Can I just bring one thing up? And I know it's going to sound like a broken record, but I really am sincerely proud. I'm sincerely proud of the way that Brenton Cox Jr. has elevated his game from becoming a UDFA that nobody wanted to take a stab on, even though he was one of the highest touted edge rushers in, I believe, wasn't he at Georgia? They're like, get out of here. And he went to Florida. They basically said, get out of here. He went to the Green Bay Packers, and everybody thought this is not the type of fit. This is not the kind of guy that the Packers play or that they'll even have in-house because they don't want to risk the reputation to that organization and to the community. Also, the guy was if you watch his highlight reel, awesome. It's amazing, right? But if you watch the other 90% of his tape, constantly overrunning, constantly not being able to set an edge, constantly making missing shoestring tackles and arm tackles. What I've seen from him is progression through a man, as a player, as a staple of the community, as somebody that's completely kept his nose clean. I've never heard about him getting in any kind of trouble whatsoever. And then to grade out at a 67.2, again, that doesn't pop off the page. That's a really solid guy. And I want to see the defensive snaps increase for him, because I think that with his increase in snaps, that defensive line, specifically the edge rotation, is going to be just way better. And you look at down there, you see guys like Kingsley and Igbare down there. We need somebody to take that spot, because I thought Kingsley was going to take a step last year. I didn't see it. I saw Brenton Cox take a massive step and kind of step over him, in my opinion.
I think you're right. And I think that with the rumor mill kind of suggesting that possibly Rashawn Gary and or LVN may kick inside in this defense this year, it may be a chance for a guy like Brenton Cox Jr. to really eat at the edge position.
Yeah. And so since you guys brought it up here with Brenton Cox Jr., let's just look at the edge room right now. Rashawn Gary, 73, Brenton Cox Jr., 67, Aaron Mosby, 62, Kingsley Igbare, 56, Lucas Van Ness, 52, as we talked about kind of the tell of two halves of the season, the back half of the season. Lucas Van Ness actually really started to crank it up. Finished the year with a higher quarterback pressure percentage according to NFL Pro and Next Gen Stats, as both Max Crosby and TJ Watt finishing it darn near a 12% there. So
Max Crosby.
Stop it.
Yeah. Ed Madden, Brenton's a young guy who is maturing. Yeah, and hey, listen, the reality is he did get in trouble in college, man. He did, right? No problem so far in Green Bay, man. Got that second chance. And I don't know about you guys. I want my defensive players to have a little bit of an edge to them too. I don't want them to hurt anybody. I don't want them to be like you said, Jacob, anything other than a pillar of the community. But man, he's kept his nose clean, and the reality is he's grading out as our second best edge rusher right now. And that's why, listen, don't hesitate to get him on the field. If you got to split him and Lucas Van Ness 50-50 on the snaps, do it. I'm good with it. I just want that quarterback to feel some pain. That's all I care about.
I just look at that list right there, and to me, the fact that that Kingsley Igbare was at 538 snaps compared to Brenton's 187. Am I reading that correctly?
What is it now?
I'm looking at snap count here. So defensive snap count, if you have Brenton Cox at 187 and Kingsley at 538, split that in half. I mean, I'd love to see the production after that. I mean, I really honestly believe, and I'm not hating on Kingsley whatsoever, but when you see something, you got to say something when they're out performing one another that drastically, and one of them has almost 4 times the snaps. We got to remedy that. No,
completely agree. Could not agree more, man. And listen, I was a big Kingsley guy coming out of the draft, coming out of college. Tim, we did that. Me and Ryan did a live draft stream, and he was the best player on my board for like 3 straight rounds before we took him. Right. And he was one of those guys that you see the year before going into the college football season, he was grading out as a first round pick. And by the end of the college football season, all of a sudden he had sank on boards, and he was still kind of high on my board because you guys know I get the information in a lot earlier. So we remove a little bit of that off-season noise. But I'm with you, Jacob. Tim, do you agree, man? Like, take the 538 snaps that Enigbare had, give that to Lucas Van Ness, right? And then the 458 that Lucas Van Ness had, give that to Brenton Cox Jr. I'd be on cloud 9.
I agree. And then you get a guy like Colin Oliver and Baron Sorrell to step up as rookies. And, hey, it's starting to click, right? And Aaron Mosby doesn't get a lot of credit. A guy who's an asset on special teams and has played some meaningful snaps for us and is progressing, in his own right as well. So, I mean, the edge room looks good, but I'm with you, man. And it's not a knock on Kingsley at all. I think he's just one of those guys that I hate to say it, but did he hit the ceiling already? I don't know. Maybe it's
wasn't he coming off of a pretty major coming if I'm not mistaken? Wasn't he coming back from an injury?
We thought he tore his ACL or something, right? Jake, you talking about?
And it turned out he didn't. It turned out he didn't, right? No
That's
surgery.
What I'm saying.
Yeah. So, correct. But still a knee injury. I mean, a knee injury is a knee injury. Try and run around and cut with a bad knee. Even a sprain can really screw up your game. So, I mean, it's like I said, I'm not trying to drag him, but it seems like he's kind of plateaued or maybe approaching that ceiling. And if he doesn't pop right away, you've got guys waiting in the wing, like we said, Colin Oliver, Baron Sorrell. Colin Oliver being a dual threat guy, a guy you can play at stackbacker as well. So I think he's going to find his way onto this team somehow. But I would love to see more snaps for Brenton Cox and LVN for sure.
Honestly, too, like,
go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, Clint Armchair was talking about Mosby's coverage grade there, 75.8, and everybody will say, well, that's only on 13 snaps. Well, guess what? The other guys that lead the team had two. The biggest one we had was Kingsley at 30, and then Lucas Van Ness with 11. So he's got the second most snaps covering, doing that whole Preston roll that nobody ever does, right? Joe Barry's 6'4",
245 with a 75 coverage grade. Come on.
That's pretty cool, man, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah, and now listen, this is what we talked about on Chalk Talk all year last year. You kept hearing us say 55 drop, right? That's the way I identify a fire zone blitz where we drop one of our defensive ends into coverage is I will call out their number and drop, right? And we said 55 drop a lot last year. 30 times Kingsley Enigbare dropped into coverage. Lucas Van Ness dropped into coverage 11 times. Aaron Mosby dropped into coverage 13 times. That whole crowd that just thought they were so damn cute, saying Joe Barry was the only moron that would drop a defensive lineman into coverage. I said, watch, it's going to happen this year. It happens on every defense. I showed footage of TJ Watt dropping into coverage all the time, and nobody complains about that. I'm telling you, it's a part of playing defense in the NFL. You've got to be able to run those simulated pressures, fire zone blitz, which is essentially you're bringing a nickel back or you're bringing a mock backer on a blitz and you're dropping a defensive lineman back into coverage. Nobody was complaining about the fire zone blitz when BJ Raji took it to the house for a pick 6 in the NFC Championship against Chicago, right? That's the type of stuff you do to make quarterbacks post-snap read. And again, I would just about say that Jeff Hafley had our edges, our defensive ends, dropping into coverage more than Joe Barry did. I'd love to go back and look at that number, to be honest with you. So now, Enigbare, according to his coverage grade here, if we were to say PFF is everything, 56.5, didn't grade out that well. Look at LVN, 68.1, only on 11 dropbacks, but doing a good job taking away that hot read and some of those throwing lanes. Imagine Lucas Van Ness, 6'5", 272 pounds, standing in a throwing lane, 3 yards off the line of scrimmage, dropping into coverage, almost playing a little mock spy, and then looking to bat the ball down. That stuff matters, man, because when you're simulating pressure and you're showing blitz from one direction, typically your hot is opposite the pressure. So if they're showing a nickel blitz and a mock fire on the same side of the field over to their right, guess what the quarterback's going to do? His eyes are going to go to his hot on the left, and all of a sudden, LVN 6'5" is standing in a throwing lane back there in zone defense, in zone coverage. Those are the type of things that good defensive coordinators do to force quarterbacks to hesitate just a little bit. And that's when you hit home with that pressure. You either force the throw and throw a pick, or you hesitate and get your clock clean on the backside.
Yep.
So
that's how good things happen, right? We saw that a lot last year, right? Get your hands up, you get a tip ball, something like that. It's the name of the game, man.
Yeah, and when you look at
Pressure,
defensive,
coverage back.
exactly. When you look at defensive ends, we kept 6 coming out of camp last year, right? Let's talk about what those 6 may be here. Rashawn Gary, Brenton Cox Jr., right? Lucas Van Ness, Colin Oliver, Barron Sorrell. That's 5. So what it comes down to is, who are you keeping? Aaron Mosby, Kingsley Enagbare, or Deslin Alexander? I think it's between Kingsley and Aaron Mosby.
Yep,
PFF would say it should be Mosby, Jacob. Who would you take, Enagbare or Mosby here, man? Because Mosby played the drop game, 13 snaps, right? To, granted, Enigbare's 30, but his coverage grade, that 75.8, 6'4", 245 pounds. I mean, right here is saying that Mosby should be the guy.
Yeah, that's a tough one to me, honestly. Again, I just feel like Kingsley may, like Tim said, I don't think that he's completely washed or anything like that, but I'm just wondering if those injuries have limited what his ceiling can be. And does anybody know in the chat, if you could let me know how old they are both? Oh, here we go. They say Aaron Mosby at 0. And they got Kingsley at 25 and a half, basically. I want to say that I think Aaron Mosby is younger, but the idea of him in that coverage grade, that's a tough one. I think I'd still have to go with Enagbare if you really put the pressure on me, just because of the draft capital that we spent on him being a little bit more, I think, polished with the type of competition he played in college, and just the amount of snaps he's had in the pros, And Mosby always looks great in certain situations, but a lot of that's cleanup time. A lot of that's
you ready for this, Jacob?
What's going on?
Mosby's older than Enagbare.
All right, so then that kind of made right here. Bates just confirmed it. Thank you, Bates. He's like our Jamie, the Joe Rogan. He's the guy. I love it. But yeah, so that all being said, I think that made the decision for me then. That being the straw that broke the camel's back, I'd like to stick with Enagbare, give him another year.
I think so too. Just to back up your point, when I was looking at those PFF numbers, obviously Mosby's got the edge with coverage, but JJ Enagbare is a pure pass rusher. The pass rush grade is through the roof in comparison to Mosby. The run defensive grade is comparable as well. So those are factors you got to consider too.
Yeah, so if we go away from PFF, they said Mosby, right? But we're all kind of leaning toward Enagbare, right? Enagbare had a 9.4% pressure rate, quarterback pressure percentage, according to NFL Pro and Next Gen Stats, all right? Mosby, 8.5%, right? So that kind of, to me, that's the deciding factor there, right? Enagbare finished with 4.5 sacks. Mosby only had a half a sack. But again, you go to the pressure percentage because that gives you a good little sample size of what kind of pressure rate they have with the limited snaps if it's start comparison there. So
Clayton, who's number 1 on that list?
Number 1 on that list is Brenton Cox Jr. at 13.7%, Jacob.
That's a nice guy.
Correct. What's crazy, Jacob, is when you look at his run D snaps, he had 59 run defensive snaps, right? And he had 9 stops.
Wow.
That's pretty good. Pretty darn good when you think about run stop percentage. Now, second on the list, Rashawn Gary, 13.4%. He also led the team with 7.5 sacks. And when you look at his stops, 39 run stops. And I did the math on this. He had a higher quarterback pressure percentage, according to NFL Pro, than both TJ Watt and Max Crosby. And he also had a higher He had a higher run stop percentage than both TJ Watt and Max Crosby. And with far fewer snaps, pass rush snaps, he had the same amount of sacks as Max Crosby. And when you broke it down, if you broke it down in terms of sacks per pass rush attempt, he was 1 sack behind TJ Watt. TJ Watt finished with 11. And and if you gave Gary the same amount of pass rush snaps as TJ Watt got, because we do a much heavier rotation, obviously, than Pittsburgh does, it would have came out to 10.5 sacks for Gary, and TJ Watt finished with 11.5. Just want to point that out there. So, Jacob, I'm with you, dude. Everything screams Brenton Cox Jr. is the second best pass rusher on this team. Now, if Brenton Cox Jr. was a first-round pick and LVM was an undrafted free agent, Brenton Cox Jr. would be starting. There's no doubt in my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, now, we'll see what LVM does this year. Again, when you look at the pressure percentage, though, look who's third. LVN, 11.2%. That's what we were talking about, right? Finished with 3 sacks as well. And he had 19 run stops. I thought he was very, very underrated in the run game for sure. Because
Clayton, is there any way to filter this search to see like the back half of the season? Because again, we've all talked about how we got off to a real slow start, but down that back stretch, if I remember correctly, I think Ryan's podcast was talking about how Brenton was at like 18%. Lucas was at like 16. Gary was at like, I mean, we had dudes absolutely just being dogs at the back end of this. And if we could maintain that sort of fire, that Dylan fire, you know, in the beginning of this new season and all the way through
hot
fire. I spit hot fire. I really do think that this could be an absolute. We talked about how transformative the safety room was from the year before to this past year. This could be another one of those times we take a step back and be like, holy crap, that defensive line, even though they're the same guys, they took a massive step. Whereas in the safety room, we basically replaced everybody. We spent a bunch of draft capital there. With the defensive line room, I think we switched the coach. We have a few guys that were not like more than one that were first round draft picks that we just need to come into their own. Do you see that happening possibly?
I don't know. First of all, to answer your question, there's no way that I can do that on NFL Pro other than go back and look at each individual game log and find it that way. I think PFF will allow you to, cycle through certain percentages of the season. But for me personally, it doesn't mean anything to me when you look at those stats tallied and they don't have the tape to back it up. And again, I know you guys, if you're regulars here, you hear me talk about this all the time. It means everything to me that I can click on any of these statistics and watch the plays, right? So they're going, here's how we came up with this stat, as opposed to PFF going, just trust us. So, me don't like you that, Jen. So what was the other question, Jake? I'm sorry.
No, just that. Do you think that momentum from the back end of the year, because now that we've gotten rid of that defensive line coach, do you think that they can carry that into this new year and have a new spark?
Absolutely.
Like, I mean,
Absolutely.
they've shown that they can do it. It's just what I don't know what wasn't happening at the beginning of that season.
Right. And they kind of had to find their footing, right? Like, and you could tell, in my opinion, I could be wrong, just watching the tape with my ignorant eyes, it looks like Jeff Apley was saying, listen, boys, we're stopping the run. Don't worry about getting to the quarterback. We stop the run and we make them play behind schedule, them being opposing offenses, right? Make them play behind schedule the entire time, and they're eventually going to make a mistake. And then when you get up by a score or two, pin your ears back. Go watch the Tennessee game. I was right there in the stands. I was a couple Captain Morgans deep, but I was right there in the stands. And let me tell you, buddy, I looked over at my wife and I said, one more score, and we can turn the dogs loose. Scored one more time, and boy, did they turn the dogs loose. It was awesome watching LVN eat in that game. So, I think that's a real thing, Jacob. It's what we talk about. Go back to draft talk, right? What do we always say that Greg Cosell says? That you're looking for ascending players. You're looking for players who are playing their best ball and they're getting better as they enter the league. It's no different carrying over that momentum to the next year, in my opinion. And here's what's cool. When they do their exit interviews, Tim, the coaches go in and go, hey, here's what we want you to work on. Here's what you did good. Here's what you did bad. Work on these 3 aspects of your game. We want you to put on 10 pounds. We want you to shave off 7 pounds, right? And they're making those adjustments to get even more out of those players. So, and the guys that take it serious, I think they're the ones that will make that jump. Would you answer that the same way that Jacob's question there, Tim? Do you think that does carry over to the next year? I think it does.
I do. I agree. And it would explain like what you're just talking about. Look at Edge Coop. He's up, almost 20 pounds now. You get guys that go the opposite way. They're asked to cut weight.
Right.
We were making jokes about Deebo Samuel a couple of days ago, looking a little thicker than usual coming into a preseason. And
Cheeseburger Eddie.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I saw some tape on Deebo today, and it looks like he shredded off about half of that weight already.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. So,
Ozempic, baby, shout out, sponsor the show.
Whatever you got to do. But I like Cooper as the example, right? They saw, they did that exit interviews, went over his rookie tape. We know he's a film junkie too, just like we are. He's watching tape, and clearly they asked him to put on a little more weight, and he's done it. And it's part of football. So I do think there is carryover, especially when you're a younger player, right? I mean, you're building that momentum. Rookie year to year 2, year 3, you get one crack at it, trying to really get that first big contract in the NFL. If you're lucky, you might sign a second one. So I think there definitely is carryover for sure.
All right, how about we switch gears here and go to the cornerback room? How's that sound, fellas? Actually, it's going to be DB room, so they group them all together here on NFL Pro. But what do you feel like is the most important metric? Would you say it's passer rating when targeted, or what would you guys like to see in terms of the DB room? What do you think? What touchdowns allowed, interceptions? To me, it's passer rating when targeted.
I think passer rating when targeted is up there.
Quarterback percentage, maybe something like that.
Okay. Let's go passer rating when targeted first here, okay? Now, you got to keep in mind the minimal snaps. So you got Robert Rochelle, Amar Brown, and, those two had a 0 passer rating when targeted, although they were they were not targeted at all. So the only reason they made the list there is because they had snaps, all right? Katan Oladapo was only targeted one time. It's worth mentioning, but he had a 39.6 passer rating when targeted, okay? He played a total of 64 snaps. So first on the list initially really is Xavier McKinney at a 59.0, then Evan Williams at a 67.5, right? So safeties typically have a lower passer rating when target. Now we're getting into the cornerback room. Carrington Valentine leading the way at 69.0. Guys, he was about 7 points better than Jair Alexander, who was a 77.6. These are the things that gets me excited about Carrington Valentine. He also had 2 interceptions, while Jair had 2 as well, but Carrington gave up 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns. And I was trying to see if he had the coverage snaps. It did not. He played a total of 516 snaps. Guys, he played 516 snaps. Jair only played 347. Jair gave up 2 touchdowns, got cooked for 2 tutters, and Carrington Valentine gave up 0, while they both had the same amount of interceptions. So Carrington leading the way. Then, of course, the next cornerback would be Keyshawn Nixon at a 101.2. Not good, right? Then you got Eric Stokes, 102.3. Javon Bullard, 124.5.
Come on, Bull. Come on, buddy.
Who's not on this list because he played for the Raiders is our boy Nate Hobbs, the free agent signing. You look at the PFF grade, 61, right, Jacob? And you go, man, it don't look good. His passer rating when targeted was in the 70s. He had a better passer rating when targeted than Jair Alexander last year. Nate Hobbs did. So your top passer rating when targeted in terms of the cornerback room would be Carrington Valentine 1, Nate Hobbs 2, Keyshawn Nixon 3.
You don't by chance have Hobbs's touchdowns that he gave up by chance, do you?
I'll go pull it real quick. I think it was 0, but it might have been 1. I'll pull it up real quick. I won't put it on the screen, but I'll read it off to you.
Okay.
Keep talking for a second there.
I mean, this to me, Tim, the most unsettling part of this would have to be Bullard and Nixon, just because it seems like that we're putting a lot of stock into them going forward into this next year. But, the Evan Williams thing and the Carrington Valentine, that to me just screams, okay, we got us a few here. Obviously, we know what we have in X. Do you see anybody else kind of making that leap, whether it be a Kalen King, a Micah Robinson, somebody like that, a dark horse, the guy from, was it Greg Jr., I believe, from Jacksonville? Like, is there any of those guys you see?
Micah Robinson and Kalen King would be the first 2 that come to my name. And I think Keyshawn, you mentioned Keyshawn and Bullard. I think, in their own different ways, but there are some similarities to the fact that neither one of them have really kind of found their home yet, I guess, so to speak, in the defense. Keyshawn was, return guy, slot guy. Then we moved him to the boundary, asked him to come into the slot here and there. Same thing with Javon Bullard. He's a safety, but we played him in the slot. We put him back at safety when Evan Williams was banged up. He got roasted back there on the back end. I think, as these 2 guys continue to develop, obviously Keyshawn has a few years ahead of the game here compared to Bull. But I think as they settle into their roles, we'll probably see better production out of those 2 guys, especially now, like we said, with Jair out of the picture and, Carrington Valentine hopefully stepping into that CB1 role, quote unquote, so to speak. I think it'll give Keyshawn a little more solid footing, and he'll know what his assignment is and kind of settle into a role. So hopefully we see better numbers from those 2. But that would be what my thoughts were on Nixon and Bullard, man. It's just, Javon Bullard was kind of between a rock and a hard place last year, because it was like just when that guy was finding his groove in the slot, it was like, hey, go play safety. We need you back there. You've prepped all year, all week to week to play in the slot, and now we're asking you to play the back end. So I think that's kind of what the issue is with those guys. So hopefully that gets ironed out this year as we get through the preseason.
And Jacob, I have that for you. Nate Hobbs gave up 1 touchdown, but his passer rating when targeted was 71.9. So
let's go. All right. That's
Cheesehead
far and away. Yeah. I was just going to say, Mr. Murph came up here and said what I was thinking because Ed Madness also said before this, he said, to me, CV is CB1. She said, Murph said, y'all talking about that CV clip? Somebody must have asked him in the comments, and he said, CV said, if you don't believe in him, stay over there when proven wrong. So I absolutely love that, dude.
I tweeted it out from his Instagram, right? I didn't hack his Instagram. I screen recorded his Instagram. Okay?
No big deal. Just chilling on a yacht in the harbor, talking that talk. Gotta love it.
What he said, we can't play it because there's some bad words, but he said, quote, all the folks who said I can't do it, stay on that side. Stay on that side when this poopy take the F off. So I'm excited about CV, man, especially him being a Kentucky boy, because you guys know I was hard on him his rookie year as if he knows who the heck I am, right? But yeah, I want him mocked up too every game. I think he can throw.
You guys think we're gonna lose some of that personality and that swag with Jair not being here? I don't believe it. No. Valentine's gonna pick up right where Ja left off. Mark my words.
And here's the thing too: CV loved Jair. They were real close, right? But let me put this up on the screen. Where are we at? Hour 10. I'm gonna throw this up real quick, and then we'll come back to the NFL Pro stuff. This was a video that CV put out on his Instagram story. I think it was today. And there might be some language here, but you'll notice he tagged, I'll keep it down, but he tagged Nate Hobbs. This is Nate Hobbs right here, right? So CV working out with Nate Hobbs in the offseason here. And by the way, can we just take a second and listen? This is no Diddy here, right? Nate Hobbs.
That's a grown-ass man right there. Look at that guy.
That's a thick corner right there, boys. That's somebody he's going to lay the thunder on those running backs when he's playing out of the nickel. And I'm excited to see him because Keyshawn, the reality is you look at Keyshawn's numbers last year with the passer rating when targeted, Jacob, and I was kind of hard on him just now, but he got cooked in the slot. When they put him outside, played a lot better. He really did. So if he can lock down the outside, him and Carrington Valentine on the outside and put Nate Hobbs in the slot, and here's what's really cool. If for some reason it's going to happen, I shouldn't even say if it happens, it's going to happen. People are going to get hurt during the season. They're going to get banged up. When either Nate Hobbs or Keyshawn has to come off the field, then you put your starting nickel from last year, Javon Bullard, in, who, by the way, played his best football in the slot as opposed to the safety position. So your safety room's good. You got I think, a solid slot corner in Javon Bullard, who I expect to take a big step forward his second year in the league. I don't know, but what do y'all think about Nate Hobbs here, man? That dude looks like he's gonna make some running backs make a business decision or two, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason that we brought him in here. I mean, you kind of summed it up really well, that if we have this mix and match kind of hodgepodge of cornerbacks and they're not quite able to sit home for a few games, 4, 5, 6 games, develop their craft, all of a sudden we move them around like it's musical chairs and we say, oh, well, he didn't grade out that well. It's like, well, of course he did, because honestly, you can't have any continuity as a defensive player. And as a defensive person that played football, it's hard to try to get a craft down, to understand a scheme and what your position is, your assignment. And then they say, hey, by the way, we're about to start the game. You're just going to go play on the boundary, or you're going to play at safety. You're going to go play here. And you haven't been studying all week, but we expect you to perform because you're a professional. In theory, yeah, that should be the way that you handle that. But in practice, that's not going to work that way unless you're an absolute freak of all natures. You know, you're like a Charles Woodson or a Rod Woodson, you know, somebody that's an absolute all-pro talent that can actually play up and down with a moment's notice. I think that schematic that you're talking about there, Clayton, with the idea of Nixon playing his best ball outside, Javon being the best at the slot position, if that is that Nate Hobbs doesn't want to, you know, play that position, if he's better suited on the outside, where's CV going to line up? We've got options. Now it's just plugging and playing to find which part of this defense is most optimized, where these guys can have the most flourishing of their careers, and just leave them there. Just leave them there for half the season at least. And I would hope that Jeff Hafley, maybe, like, you know, I would consider his first NFL defensive coordination season as an absolute screaming success. I would hope that he's a smart enough guy that he's not going to rest on his laurels, and he's going to say, all right, How can I make this better? What did I do wrong last year? I guarantee Jeff Hafley, if you ask him this question, it'd be a really interesting answer because he wouldn't give you coach speak. He'd say, oh, yeah, we got to get this guy over here. We got to get this guy over here. We got to learn how to keep them in their positions. I think that he'd be man enough to admit maybe we moved guys around too much and didn't let them reach their full potential. I look for that to change this year.
Yeah, 2-0 for this says, with Jair admitting we lost games because he was scared to hit, it's nice to know we have a dude who isn't scared to truck. And we showed you the Carrington Valentine run snaps too. Like that dude, I want him to cool off a little bit. Like, hey man, you just stay outside a little bit more. Don't get too crazy. But boy, he ain't afraid to set an edge either. So I think the run defense is going to be just fine. Will the pass defense take a step back? We'll see. Because what teams started to do is once they realize Xavier McKinney's an absolute ball hawk, let's just stop throwing the ball deep. Let's stop going inside of the field. So what did Hafley do? Hafley, to keep him, as he said in his own words, to keep him from falling asleep on the field because he was so bored where they wouldn't even throw his way, he started putting him in the box and putting Evan Williams up at post, right? So I'm excited to see how offenses try to attack this defense this year. And I'm also excited to see what Hafley's got in his bag of tricks because when you go and draft someone like Colin Oliver isn't just a three-point stance, put your hand in the dirt and rush the quarterback, right? To me, he's that hybrid. It's got me thinking, are we going Viper? Are we going Leo? Are we going weak side backer? Or, I'm sorry, boundary backer is essentially what the Leo was at Tennessee. And then you got some bigger Vipers that, to the best of my knowledge, they would play the field side. It was the field side edge, but they wasn't your traditional 5-tech type build where they're 260, 270 pounds. They were usually between 240 and 250. But Colin Oliver, that draft pick kind of got me going. Maybe Hafley wants to dip his toe into that hybrid backer, game a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think we're going to be surprised by Colin Oliver. Preseason's right around the corner, gang. It's going to be here in a blink. Think of these players that we get the key in. Now listen, the casual fans, but I just get to the regular season. Preseason doesn't matter. I'm telling you, dude. If you know what to look for in preseason games, watching people like Colin Oliver, seeing what kind of snaps that Matthew Golden can get, right? Savion Williams, are you kidding me? Savion Williams in preseason games is going to be a blast. Marshawn Lloyd, is he healthy? We're going to get a good look at him.
Sorrell.
Baron Sorrell rushing the quarterback. All these guys, these young guys, man. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. It really is. So.
Clayton, we have one of our first in a while outsiders. S9er gang H says stopping by.
Speaking of casuals,
just say I'm stopping by to say the Packers still suck. Have a good one.
Hey,
bang bang Niner gang. Womp womp. You guys looked great in the playoffs last year. Oh wait, that's right. You weren't in the playoffs last year.
We appreciate you swinging by though, man. Listen, other fan bases they're welcome in here, man. They are. Yeah. The only thing is, I kind of felt bad because. How bad does your team suck? Like, I don't go to Bears streams. I don't go to 49ers streams. I don't go because we got awesome Packer coverage all over Twitter, all over YouTube. How bad does your fan base suck?
I don't know.
That you have to jump on Packer stream.
They're giving me strong Chicago Bear fan vibes right here. I mean, you got a team that finished 6-11 last year, and he's in our pod talking about
get ready to go.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Get him off the screen. Get him out.
That'd be like if I just attacked the Magic Mike Facebook page every day. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man.
So we'll just go ahead and hit you with it, man. Niner gang, appreciate you swinging through, buddy. But
sit your butt outside.
We'll see. The window is closed, 49ers fans. It really is, man. It really is. Think about. Coach,
sorry, you triggered me, man. Sorry. I don't
want to turn this into a 49ers podcast or anything, but they got their quarterback, in my opinion. They got him, right? What do they look like? They went and drafted, I think they drafted a left tackle or a right tackle in the first round, so they're trying to sure up the edge, right? They got Bosa when he's healthy on the edge, but how much gas does he got left in the tank, seeing that he's starting to get banged up quite often? Fred Warner was battling injuries last year as well. He's no younger. So they're 2 or 3 injuries away from that franchise becoming the Cleveland Browns. That's how close they are. They're this freaking close. But again, Shanahan's a great mind, and I think Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. So we'll see though. But let's see here. Big Pac-Man over on X. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, love the pod, guys. Keep up the good work. Totally stoked for this season. Hey, thank you for swinging through, man. Appreciate you.
Love it.
Sorry. Respect Down just says, yes, you probably need hobo stabbing insurance in San Francisco. I suggest
You're an amazing person. You know that, don't you?
Hobo Stab Insurance.
brought to you by State Farm.
Sponsor the show. I'm 42 years old. Now that's the first time I've heard that. Hobo Stab Insurance. I'm going to write that down in my little book here. Let me write that down. Use that tomorrow at the gas station down here in Tennessee. So, all right, boys, anything else y'all want to hit on? Anything at all before we wrap this big bear up? You want me to go ahead and drop these stats down? Is there anything else y'all want to see here? Or are we good?
Man, I guess if you had to look at this group, this is still taking into account some of the last guys that we had. Is there anybody on that list, whether it be a Ballantyne, Stokes, or a Robert Rochelle? I mentioned, I believe he got signed by Dallas. Is there anybody that you wish got another shot over than, the young and up and comers, the Mike Robinsons, the Greg Juniors, the Kalen Kings? Is there anybody else you thought, hey, let's give him another year?
For me, it was always Corey Ballantyne. But
Right.
that 145.1 shut me the hell up. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? I'm
Yep.
done. I'm done to fill
Age, too.
in Ballantyne.
The
What's that?
age factor was working against Ballantyne too. I
Yeah.
think he was a little bit on the older side, but
And
I would say
Ballantyne
that would
looked
be
a
the
lot
only.
better. Ballantyne looked a lot better in Joe Barry's defense too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, like, to Jacob's point, like, that would be the only name I could think of. Like, we tried, we gave Eric Stokes every opportunity. It was time to move on, right? I don't think we moved on. Same thing with Rob Rochelle. Great special teamer, great teammate, good locker room guy, but production just wasn't there. It was time to move on. So I don't see anybody here that's gone that I wish wasn't, I guess, for lack of a better term.
I think the team got better. There's no two way. I can't look at one aspect of our team. Like, there's many fans that look at the cornerback room and go, we got worse without Jair. You picked up Nate Hobbs, right? You dropped Jair. We just showed you the numbers, right? Other than PFF, Nate Hobbs gave up one less touchdown than Jair. He played more snaps, and he had a better passer rating when targeted, and he's better against the run. Like, I'm not saying that Nate Hobbs at his best is better than Jair Alexander at his best, because when Jair was at his best, which was several years ago now, dominant. That being said, for $6 million, I wanted Jair back. I wanted Jair back, and you signed Nate Hobbs. Now we're cooking with Crisco. You know what I mean? But that's the same mindset of we want Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs, and of course we don't get them. So, all right, that's it, boys.
What's $1 million or two between friends, right, Clayton?
Exactly.
No big
Jacob,
deal.
Let me hold a Benny, Jacob. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So,
My honor.
respect-
Yeah.
Yeah. The Hobo Stab Insurance brought to you by State Farm is what Respect Orange.
Clint says, like a good neighbor, I'll stab you.
Oh my gosh. All right, that's it. We're out of here. See, this is how the channel gets demonetized, right? We let the chat take over. So Clint the Armchair Quarterback says, dodge the poop on the sidewalk. It is funny though, when they had the Super Bowl in LA, Pat McAfee said, boy, they rolled into town there a week early, and it was like, they're doing a Super Bowl here. Like, there's like, it was just a mess. There was literally entire encampments and stuff on the side or on the sidewalks. And he literally said they watched somebody poop on the sidewalk. It's like, and then he said, boy, it was like somebody flipped the switch 3 days later. All those people are gone. Everything's cleaned up. And we're ready to roll. It's like, why don't we do that all the time? What's wrong with helping those people get on their feet, right?
Yep.
Get on their feet and clean the damn city up. Like, what are we doing? I don't know. That's just me. So anyway, that's it, guys. We're out of here. We appreciate y'all. Again, we're doing the Mac giveaway this weekend. I'm going to go ahead and tally the list probably in the next day or two and get that together. So anybody who did use the link, givebutter.com/KRPSJ5, donating to a great cause over there at My Autism Connection. We're going to be putting everybody's name on the wheel, spinning it, and give away that autographed Dorsey Levens jersey. So really, and here's the thing. I'm going to show that video too, Mac. I see Mary in the chat. We're going to show that when we do the giveaway as well, the one that you emailed over. So appreciate everybody. We're going to get out of here. I'm going to go downstairs and save my marriage. Got to take the trash out. You know how it goes, man. It's just the way it is. It ain't Monday, Tim, but got to build up them brownie points now, boys.
Yeah.
The season's right around.
You know what you can, man.
That's it. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, unless something changes. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Clint, thank you for gifting those 10 memberships, buddy. You are awesome. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.
There we go.
Bye, guys.